All right, I'm back. I'm just checking to see if I have control of this board or somebody else. Samuel's going to call back in, and we're probably going to just be running a test. Jeff, would you call back in, please? Huggy Bear is back. Huggy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Don't ask me what just happened because I do not know. Samuel's coming back. Somebody had control of my board.
Yeah, it was major interference. It was obviously willful.
I didn't have the video going. I don't know if you guys saw it. Dylan, his board saw it, and somebody was putting pornographic pictures up.
Hello, online studio.
Okay, we're here. Samuel's back.
We are.
Yes. Okay, and one of our guests came back. Do you have any questions for Samuel, Huggy?
No, I'm okay. I'm here. I'm fine.
Hi, Huggy. How you today?
All right.
Oh boy.
I'm seeing those planets, and they're massive. I mean, oh
yes,
my God.
Yes, they are. We've been watching them for upward of 8 years now.
Yeah, it takes up the whole sky.
I'm totally in awe that the good large percentage of the population is not doing so, and I'm standing here going, how do you miss this? Whew.
Well, I noticed everybody's got their head down in a cell phone.
Definitely. I when I go into town and I sit and watch people do the same thing, and I'm going, wow, because I can't use them. I drain the battery on them or fry them or zap them electrically, and they don't work again. So I don't even touch them. So yeah. Earlier we were having. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I heard you too great earlier, and I'm going to mute out, and I'm looking forward to this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we'll continue on. I think we got rid of our troll.
I was hearing crackling paper in the background, but I was wondering what that was about. But anyway. Okay. I gotta, find that muster, that energy level. All these people are searching for these planets, and they're searching for extraterrestrial life. And we hardworking folks here are trying to give them all the answers. And of course, we're getting, tripped up as we go, no matter what, because the powers that be do not want us to have this information out. Well, I'm terribly sorry, out there world, who is trying to mess with my radio show one more time, or excuse me, your radio show, my interview. I apologize. I got to,
That's all right.
Stay out of your kitchen. This is your kitchen, unless I'm invited. Have some brie and some wine. Here we go.
Just make note, everybody. I for people that were viewing, I did not put up the pornographic pictures.
Yeah. Nor was I responsible for said skin flick. Anyway, we were, for those of you who couldn't hear us earlier talking about, I was having a minor schizoid embolism over the fact that the cube is so visible. And everybody's searching for, the answer, is ET real? Holy crap, how do you miss this big square cloud up in the sky that's been visible since, early summer? And, it was sighted next to the sun in late spring, and numerous hundreds of pictures have been taken and submitted to Montana Skywatchers on Facebook. And yet the boys who are out selling memberships, WSO and all the other little wannabe groups that have cloned out of, the slightest tidbit of information, and then they go off into the gossip world and make money off of it. They're all lost on stuff, and they don't even have the slightest clue of what they're actually looking at in the sky. And yet with the Montana Skywatcher reports and stuff over the last 8 years, we've identified these things, and we know what they look like. We're used to them. We know the many different cloud type conditions as they roll in. And I was thinking for the longest time, and I mentioned this in the earlier program, which some people heard and some people did not hear, about track records. And you know, a lot of people bring up Zeta Talk to me and things like this, and Marshall Masters, and I just chuckle because these are people, and there's a few other names that are big people that are really well famous, and they keep giving out these dates of when the planet will get here, and then recently NASA admits that there is the planet 7X or 9 or whatever. You know, I chuckle at this because they're all attaching these tag names that are deceptive, and they're talking about, oh, they're entering our solar system way out there, and it's all a bunch of distraction and hooey. We've been watching these planets huge and close and next to Earth for 8 years. So, you know, and everybody who's not on board with this information, you guys, this isn't new. This is well documented information. I don't know what you're waiting for. You're looking in the wrong channels if you're a scientist and you have not seen these planets yet. And I'll lay my evidence up against anybody, any theoretical physicist on down to the guy that sweeps the floors. Not saying that they're less of a person, because in some cases they're better people for it than a lot of scientists. But anyway, I don't know how people are missing this. This, you know, extraterrestrial life is right outside your window every day. Just look for that damn huge, and you know, you're not looking for this tiny little thing flying between the clouds. We're looking at a thing that is square, and you can see the three sides of it at any given time, and the side orb, and you can see the clouds that are producing off, and these are space clouds. And the object cluster group, which is a series of asteroids, which is discharging right above our heads, and it's in every picture we get every day. My God, you guys, these asteroids are huge, and they're passing Earth every day. And they're discharging, and they're zapping the crap out of things, and Europe is in floods, and we were having 7-point earthquakes because of the proximity of these planets. And if you don't get on board with the truth, then you're not looking in the right information sources, because they sure as heck aren't going to give it to you on the nightly news. That's for sure. They're covering the weather for 15 seconds, maybe 20 nowadays. And if you don't go out and search for this information, you know, you deserve, I'll click, there goes my phone again. If you don't go after this information, you deserve to be in the dark, because, you know, it's being hidden. Are we still there? Mary? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just checking. I heard, when I hear a click, I think, oh, I've been disconnected again, because it happens so often.
I muted myself real quick because Jeff came in here and was telling me he can hear now, and everybody can hear. So,
let's hope so.
He wanted to know what I did. I told him what I did. Dylan is bored, wants to know if you're on the computer, if you can see the chat.
I can go there. Real quick, let me send what I was typing while I'm talking here.
He wants to ask you a question. If you want to ask him, Dylan, go ahead. I'll type it in. I'll ask him.
Get there. I hadn't been there.
Oh, what a night.
Oh, that's the way it always, you know. I'm used to this always being complicated and difficult 3 times as hard as it should be. It's because, you know, I've spent roughly almost 40 years dealing with this situation of knowing, and then what do you do with this information? I'm scrolling down trying to find that link. You
know, you know what's really weird is I'm having a hard time learning this new TalkShoe platform, right? Well, I just was searching around because I'm trying to figure out how to send out my notifications to let people know I'm going to be on the air. And I was kind of searching, and I came across this section. It said something about logging in, and it said, if you're an agent, use this link. And I'm like, agent? Oh, that's interesting. So is that what just happened? An agent used the link to get into my show?
Well, who knows? Who knows? They're doing a lot of, you know, new things to stop what they deem, and this is where the rub comes in for me personally, is what they deem as junk news. Now, anyone could, in a position of authority, sitting at Facebook or whatever, could go, well, this guy's out of his mind. Click, he's done. Boom, and I'm
Yeah.
done. And like we talked about on the phone, I've been jumping through the hoops on getting tested as for bot testing on Facebook, and it keeps testing me to see if I'm a bot, because they believe that I'm putting out promoting fake news on purpose for some dark, nefarious change of public opinion. But in all actuality, I am changing public opinion. I'm putting out the basis of fact, and if you go back through, like we talked about before, my background history and my accuracy rate over the last 8 years, I have a near 95% rate of accuracy. I don't think I've made that many mistakes. I mean, and I'm being liberal with that 5%. I have a background in far-seeing. I've been a psychic all my life. I'm a chemistry whiz kid, for those of you guys who don't know my background history. I wrote a term paper in high school that the federal government slapped the kibosh on and didn't want to tell the Russians the truth of our binary solar system, because I figured out that the only way that our solar system could exist in the state that matches understanding of chemistry as I know it was to have two suns. And along with those two suns, it has to have two groups of bodies, because we are a compound in space. We are not just rocks floating around in a solar system. And the unification rule is that we are an electrical universe. We are not a gravitational-based universe. Okay, I'm looking at the chat area, and I see DY here says, is there any planet in this binary solar system that hasn't gotten close to us yet? We haven't really seen, now it's possible, I've got some pictures that date back many years of Matim. Matim is a tiny little, very bright blue planet. And we have not seen any major attributable picture groupings where I don't call something till I've seen it 5 or 6 or 7 times where we can understand factually that, yes, these things match. And I've gotten like 3 or 4 close-ups of Matim in the years, and I've lost a bunch of pictures as well from loss of computers, etc. But we haven't been able to really call Matim. And Matim has got a wide orbit, and we see it Matim for like 2 weeks, and then it's gone for a couple of months, and then it comes back. And because it orbits underneath and lasts behind the whole group of them, and yet shines very brightly. I don't know exactly why, and that may have to do with its chemistry makeup. It could be silica, for all we know, and very bright white. Whereas Nepacity is green, and we see the surfaces of volcanoes on it on close passes. And Saturn is dust red, and I believe it to be like an iron ore planet. We know it has like 3 moons, and we know Nibiru has 2 moons, and we believe that Saru may have a moon, but we've never seen a really good close pass, because Saru's moon is usually up on the high right shoulder of Saru as we're facing, which would be Saru's actually left shoulder, but as we face it, it's on the high right shoulder, and we've never seen a real close pass because it's usually enveloped in its exterior atmosphere. And we've had a few shots of that, but generally we've overall we have seen these cyclic passes of all these planets so many times that we've actually attributed the base cloud patterns that what it starts to do when their atmosphere and our atmosphere start bumping into each other, and then they create these onset patterns. And this is what I refer to as the base cloud. And then, like Nepacity has a snorkel base cloud that when it gets close to Earth, this rotational thing that, it's like an elephant trunk that reaches down and just starts sucking up our atmosphere and our moisture. And that's why when it gets to a certain pass ratio, as it starts to go by us, it dumps all of that water and moisture and everything that it's sucked up, and then it drops in, one place where you get, a year's worth of rain in an hour or 2 hours. And these are the rain bombs of Nepacity. And we've, over the years, seen so many sightings that we can attribute weather patterns, we can attribute colors, we can attribute orbitation, we can attribute the asteroid groups that flow under the southern poles of each of these planets, and the basic spiral order of Nibiru, Saru, Uri, Atu, Atu's moon is Saturn, Nepacity, and followed by Matim. And then, of course, the object cluster group, which is all these asteroids that are a debris field, sort of Oort cloud electron mass, flying and floating behind the whole thing of of Saru's overall debris field, because Saru is huge, and she, I believe, holds most of the smaller planets behind her, where she follows behind Nibiru. But we're starting in the rotation, which is the opposite direction of what they are spiraling, as they're spiraling towards us now and over our heads slowly, and will pass to our right as time goes by, because they came down from below and to our left in their first initial onset, where both solar systems came together. You can't say Nibiru came to us or we came to them, considering that we're attached to them, and we just came closer, as we do every 3,654 to 57 years. Oh, there's a breath. Your turn.
Okay, well, I have a question in the chat that someone wants to know how Robert is doing. To be honest with you, Dylan, I heard from him once after his mother passed, and he said that he didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to come back on the shows, maybe never, he said, but not for a long time. I've been emailing him, asking him if he's okay, asking him to call me, let me know what's going on. He's not responding. Also, Betsy Foss, the psychic lady we had on, she emailed him, and she said he isn't responding to her, so
Well, he may not have room for it right now.
Yeah, he's taken his mother's death really hard. And
well, I had a family issue just where somebody ended up in the hospital, and I couldn't talk about this 2 weeks ago. I couldn't talk about this. This wasn't something where I could keep my head on. So, I mean, if he's lost his mother, then we need to give him the space and blessings and hope and pray that he is comfortable and works his loss out. Now, I can tell you from absolute personal experience, because I have walked the world of the dead. I have done shamanic rites, and I know about magic, and I know about all kinds of stuff. Oh boy, would you guys love to hear, across the dinner table with me. But I know for a fact that we do not die. We transcend into another spirit form. And so his mother has not passed on. She has merely just ascended to a different stage.
That. And
but it's going to take him some time. It's personal loss.
But the problem is he, he lived with his parents. He was their caretakers, and
then
they both
died
within a year. Right, and now he's like lost. So, he's
better
off be hard
too,
for
because
him.
now he doesn't have to worry about them anymore, and they're fine. They're fine. They're right next to him, and all he has to do is think about them, and they are there because they're a part of him. He is a part of them, and this is where I talk about the electrical universe that we live in. They are thread attached forever. They will never, ever be disconnected, and all he has to do is refer to that beautiful, brilliant thing between his ears called the human brain, and it has such powers, and the heart has such powers. People don't understand the abilities that we can achieve is because we've been beaten into believing that we can't. But all you have to do is, if you miss someone, you just say, hi, come here, sit down next to me, and let me give you a hug, and they are there. Whether
I talk
you see
to my
them or
husband
not.
all the time. I communicate with my husband all the time. I talk to him and feel his presence. Sometimes I smell him. Sometimes I feel him touch me. I know they're right there. So,
there's two questions up on the board.
You said, yeah, why don't you go ahead and answer those questions?
One's asking, so what causes the pole shift? The pole shift has to do with basically the strong wave powers of the either north or south pole of the Earth, having to do with the magnetosphere of the planet and the inner core. If there's changes in the inner core, where say for instance the magma, if you believe in the iron magma center, that internal core changes, then the planet will actually roll. And we have rolled. We were discussing this on the previous show, how, or on the phone, we've had so many conversations, I can't keep them straight, but I'm on my third rose bloom. In Montana, we only have one. Now, all of a sudden, I'm looking at the third batch of roses, which tells me that our hemisphere has changed. We have already rolled. Now, we may not see a full pole shift. We may see just a partial roll, which has happened numerous times throughout history, and they don't always count the degradation of that pole value in stones when they would geologically look at them to see for pole shift. They're usually looking for extreme changes where the north and south inside of a rock's gravitational magnetosphere has been completely reversed. But I believe that we've already rolled in a great deal, and where you used to live on the side of the planet is no longer where you were. We're somewhere else now. We have tipped and rolled, which is like 2 weeks ago we went through a major roll change when the planets came close, and the visible view of the moon rolled extremely, almost 180 overnight, and then back. And we have documented time-lapse footage of it showing it doing this overnight. And this was also during the time of that last CME blast that shot across the bow. That there's the next question here from G1 guest 12. It says, I was wondering if you talked to Major Ed Dames. Mr. Dames said that there is one more event till the onset of the kill shot. Now, that was the shot across the bow. From my knowledge, my personal knowledge of the far-seeing group, when I was there, we kind of knew some of this information. And the shot across the bow is not necessarily going to be a solar CME. It could even be an asteroid going across us really, really close, which has already happened numerous times recently as well. We had one just the other day. But the point with it is I don't know Ed Dames that well. I have met him. I believe he was the man that recruited me. I mean, this was so many years ago, it's really hard to remember names and faces, but I believe he was the one that recruited me. And that was back in 1980 when I had to sign my non-disclosure agreement and everything, just to find out what the job was. The kill shot, we're at a stage here where they've been showing some crop circles where I believe Atu and Atu's moon is going to cross over into a visible sunrise view, where it'll be actually not next to the right of the sun, but will actually have passed Earth. And I think we had an event like that last year where there were a few weeks worth of sightings where if you looked into the west sky as the sun came up, you could actually see Atu and Uri. Now, they're always linked, except Uri is so big right now, it literally fills the entire left side of the sky, as well as partial bottom of Saru, which is behind at Uri as well. And we're seeing the onset of the whiteout skies again, and then we're seeing the asteroid field come in, which is underneath Uri as well. And then during these close passes, I mean, this is when there's multiple groups of asteroids go right over the top of us, and you see these long streaks through the sky that are huge. And some people are still calling those chemtrails, and they're not, because chemtrails are small and circular, and they dissipate with these times. But these ones I'm talking about, massive across the sky, what we call ion drag-off clouds. And as the planet above us rotates, so do those ion clouds, and your angle of view of the underneath of them changes over time as well. And it's a really cool show. And every time I see it, I want to duck. It's like, holy cow, God, look at those asteroids. Jesus, I'm amazed they're not facing Earth. So, you know, and we've also been watching the meteor meters, which is echoing up from the East Coast. And we watched that live site on meteorlive.com or livemeteors.com. And we watched that. And the other day there was events going on we'd never, ever seen. I mean, across the page from one part of the spectrum to the other, objects. And we'd never seen that before, with color bands and nonstop echoing, going wow, 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 wow. And it was just, that's complete echo reverberation coming back off of this site. And that was just the other day. So I truly believe that, you know, and then we've got a hurricane coming in on the East Coast. So if you guys aren't at the grocery store this week buying a couple of cans of extra food and a couple of bottles of water to put away, I hate to recommend the small bottles of water because they're toxic. But, you know, big containers of good water, some rice, you know, dried foods, dried beans, put some stuff away because there's something coming. And I feel it in my bones. And I'm not one to stand here. I mean, have you ever sat there and heard me say, oh, my God, the end is near? No, something's coming. I can feel it. And we need to, you know, buy those couple of extra cans of
Samuel, we're having such horrible weather right now. I mean, with the earthquakes and then all the flooding. We had a lot of flooding with this last storm that came in the United States. And this hurricane that's coming across has, do you know that it has the red sand that was blowing? That sandstorm is mixed in with it. So
I did my homework today, I promise.
Okay. So why don't you
I did.
elaborate on that a little bit? As far as, you know, how the planets are affecting our planet and what we're in store for as far as storms and catastrophes on our planet.
Right, and you won't hear about this on your average news, but the European grain crop is failing. They've lost 30% this year, which is going to up their need for us to provide for them. But we've had some failed crops, but we've also had some bumper. And I watch the farm reports and everything. I mean, I get the whole story for you guys because I want to be informed at my level, and you know, I have this insatiable want to study at nonstop because if I have something, a question, I have to fill it. Otherwise, I'm not going to go to sleep tonight. And that's just me. I'm crazy about digging, and that's where, you know, I've gotten to where I am at, and including meditation and everything else. I've learned everything I possibly to get my hands on, because if I'm going to stand here and tell you folks that, you know, something's wrong, then boy, by God, I better know what the heck I'm talking about, and I'm not going to be one of those little guys that, you know, charges you $37 a month for membership fees. And I'm telling, you know, and this is part of why I started out this with by not charging any money, because it's a credibility issue to me. I'm without the document on the wall, I'm a theoretical physicist. Frankly, I believe I'm one of the best ones there is. I think, and I'd welcome anyone to actually sit down and debate it with me, of who has the piece of paper on the wall. And I'm also very educated in the occult. I'm very educated in magic. Very educated in the Bible. I have 4 years college credits in Bible study. I'll put that up against anybody else's debate ratio. And I've had people ask for debates, and they were with people that I didn't even want to be in the same chat room with because they would have digressed into an argument. So therefore, I thought it was a moot point. So I never even bothered. But my point is, you know, I want people to go and look at my background, look at the information I put out over the last 7 or 8 years on YouTube. It's all over the place. Granted, a lot of it's been lost, and I'm sorry. A lot of it's been removed, and I'm sorry. But people have to get on board with this. I'm not standing here doing this to get people to send me $2 or $20 or $1,000 or anything. I'm telling this stuff to people because it's a serious, serious thing. We're watching the events unfold right before our face. And if you're new to this and you haven't seen it yet, then you're not looking in the right place, because this information is being stopped. They don't want you to know that everything's in turmoil. And did you know how many people died last month in India from flooding?
Yeah, and you're right. They don't want this information out there, or they wouldn't have did what they did in the first show we opened up. You have a question in the chat, Sam.
Okay, I was wondering if I can talk to you about Quanon, psyops, or I have never heard of it. I have no idea. Can you define that a little bit? What is QANON, Quanon? E1, guess 12. There, how fast this link works. I have never heard of that. It's a psyops, or is it a psyops or a real movement? I can attest to some of the realities of Buddhism, for instance, for those folks who are interested briefly while we're waiting. Okay, what's giving off the red iron oxide dust? The planet is Saturn. Now, we've seen many of new folks have seen the red planet with the tail and the winged thing going around it. The yellow moon of Saturn is close proximity facially to Saturn proper, and it causes this ionization reaction as it comes in close proximity to other planets, and because Saturn is a mediumly small sized planet, and I believe it's like iron, and that we're looking at the iron rust, whereas Nepesity is green, and I think we're looking at a copper planet that's volcanic and hot, whereas Saturn may be more core dead. But to be a positively charged planet, you have to have a core. So it is a planet and would have an electrical core. So I believe that the ionization of Saturn's yellow moon and off and around the body proper of the planet is creating a degradation, and the dust is coming off from the electrical diode event. I think it's electrically being charged when in proximity to the other planets, and it's putting off all of this dust, rust dust. And there's geological records that show up in Caribbean rock formations that show a particular type of iron or iron oxide ore that is not from the African desert. It is a different type, geologically, subatomically type of iron ore rust, and it shows up every 4,000 years in Caribbean stone records. And in that area, there is no iron ore whatsoever. That's all just, sand and limestone and sea products that have been smashed down under the oceans. So there is no iron ore in that region whatsoever. And I saw that tidbit of fact, about 8-10 years ago. So I know that the iron ore dust, now granted, a good portion of it does come from the African desert, but there is an exterior source as well, and we have seen evidence of that with the red skies. The last time the Saturn was very close to Earth. I hope that answers your question. And there's another one here, is why hasn't Earth been covered in the dust yet? Well, it has. If you go out and you put a little bit of water on the hood of your car and you sweep up all of the dust that comes off the hood of your car into one pile, and then you let that water dry, and you'll see all the dust pile up in one little spot. If you like, take a card and wipe it in with a card or something, or a sponge, whatever, and then leave it in one spot to dry out, and you walk up with a magnet, I promise you a good portion of that dust is going to come off of your car onto that magnet.
So, I have to agree with you as far as us tipping already, because in the beginning of August, the trees up here are turning orange like it would in October.
Yeah, we are already starting into fall. And I was talking to South Africa just the other day, and I talk to South Africa every day, but I was talking to them the other day, and they're talking how they've got the onset of the season change. They feel like it's spring. So yes, we are, because of our tip ratio, that can change the axis, that can change the angle of the sunlight, that can also move us forward faster in our personal yearly axis. Now, we could also be dragging and changed by the overall effect of the other passing planets, because they're shoving us around. When the two planets, they don't collide, they shove each other out of the way electrically and with their magnetosphere and their ionosphere and their atmosphere. There's a whole series of, there's like 3 to 4 different changes that can occur between proximities. And then, of course, when they get really horrendously close and they're going to crash into each other, that's when they electrically discharge, because they're both different electrical bodies carrying a different charge. And Earth puts off 235 volts. Now, I don't know what the other planets put off, but we know for a fact that Earth puts off 235 volts. And this, of course, is what Tesla talked about, what you could use for free energy. And you can. And if you're into meditation and stuff, you can use that 235 volts for grounding meditation, which will turn on the unused portions of your brain, which will allow you to achieve levels of high IQ and extra abilities, such as myself. And this is how I've learned how to do this. And, someday I hope to find a really rich philanthropist that says, hey, dude, I'll give you a whole bunch of money if you teach me how to be enlightened. Well, first of all, get rid of your money. Give it to me. No, you want enlightenment? Get rid of that cash, because it's stopping you from achieving. Because you have to go through the school of hard knocks before you'll ever achieve bodhisattva and enlightenment. And you have to come to understanding, and you have to suffer, because the truth, like, for instance, what Gandhi spoke about, life is about suffering, and only when you understand suffering will you achieve enlightenment. Because in suffering, it's like, and I try to describe this to people. I hate to say it, I have followers, I have friends that I try to teach, and sometimes they learn, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes they're obtuse and never get it. But I keep trying anyway. And it's sort of like, God, I've almost forgotten the entire point topic. It's sort of like you have to put something in to get something out, and flow with the river of life, and you float downstream and you let it occur. And the more time you have to watch these things, the better off your enlightenment will become. And it's taking the time. Anyway, as I was saying about the philanthropist, it would be great. I'll teach a real nice philanthropist how to reach bodhisattva, so that I can buy the indigo farm, so I can invite everybody over to live in a sustainable environment and grow our own food et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sure there's hundreds of those people out there, and I don't know how much time we have. But anyway,
Well, you do
I
have
went off
a link.
left field.
A link was sent to you here. I think it has to do with that group they're talking about. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, since we're having such extreme rain and flooding, when we do get into the winter season, are we going to be like bombarded with snow this year?
Yeah, it could very well happen. And just keep watching the standard advance of the normal jet stream, which has been in a dual split, which is a winter pattern, which is odd. And we're kind of already in certain patterns. The jet isn't acting anyway that you can even meteorologically measure. Correction by above, will it exit our solar system like a bat out of hell? No. This is a slow spiraling process, and we don't know the history of how long Nibiru is going to be next to us. And could you imagine if we did this for the next 10 years with these close passes and all this bad weather? Everything we know, every piece of land that we know is going to be washed away or changed or disrupted earthquake-wise or fried or turned to desert, and regions of forest are going to either turn to a tropical nature. And at one point in time, the planet Earth is generally a tropical planet. This is the tail end of an ice age. This is the last throes of our last ice age, and we could go into an entire planetary-wide tropical scenario like a good portion of the Earth's history has been for millions of years. During the Jurassic and the Cretaceous and stuff, the temperatures were much higher than now. And if you don't live in a region that is going to be able to grow food in the next 20 years, you're not going to have any. And this is why we're talking about, migration due to disasters and everything being very possible. And part of why I'm staying where I am, and I was told to stay here for a reason, and I'll let part of that secret out, is that Montana will have water. Now, you can't do anything without water. So we don't know what the next 5 years, we don't know what the next 20 years. We know that in 2028 or so, we're actually going to get hit by a large asteroid. So we don't know if that's a life-kill event in just, a few years. And the question is where do you want to be? And I don't want to tell people to relocate, but I'm telling you for sure you don't want to live in the coastal areas. There's this toxic red tide that's going on in Florida. And if you walk on the beach, they say this is a natural nature-caused event. Well, yeah, the red tide is, but this is a mega red tide. This is caused by humans. It's our fault.
And I heard it's affecting the air quality down there too.
Of course it is. You have amino acids and plankton eating people poop and growing by the billions, and they put off methane and oxygen. But they're putting off meth toxins as well because it's a byproduct. Mostly they're putting off oxygen or robbing the oxygen out of the water, and they're secreting it above water, and they're putting off CO2s. And I mean, there's entire dead zones 20 miles offshore where the fish swims in there and they can't breathe and they die. I mean, thousands of animals are washing up every day. It's proof that Florida has gone over the tipping point at people living and flushing their toilets into a septic tank that runs out into the lake. No matter what, it's man's fault. We're taking that, and not only that, the temperature changes. Everything's gone way warmer. Diseases have moved north, or we have moved south. The sharks have moved north because New York went south. Not that the water's just warmer, but it's a combination of both. And people don't look at that. They don't look and put the dots together that we have rolled, because, I mean, the moon, in recorded history of mankind going back thousands of years, the view of the moon has always been the same. It's never changed. And then since 2010, 2011, 2012, the moon started dancing, and we've had numerous sightings of that going back the last 8 years on our site. Unfortunately, Montana Skywatcher 1 was a closed site for the longest time, and that information did not get out because we were getting so much harassment from so many people that would say, okay, well, that doesn't adhere to physics and gravity, and then they'd start trolling us and say, well, you don't know space, and then I'd have to stand there and say, well, yes, I do, because I have a unification theory that the government told me I couldn't even tell you about for 30 years. And then how do you start that conversation? It's a bad forum immediately off the dash because I'm above them and they don't like that. So I try to help people out to know that there is a truth, We know what the truth is. It's just that everybody's got to get on board with this because we've proven it over the last 8 years. How many years worth of proof does it take? How many hundreds of thousands of pictures do you need?
Well, I'd
We
like to
know.
get your take on the, there's a lot of pictures up on Facebook of mass swarms of insects, like over in Russia, they were swarmed with mosquitoes. And then
Sure.
there was a church that was swarmed with bees. And what do you think's going on with that?
Well, we know that the human resonance is freaky. We know that Fukushima has been dumping radioactive material in the ocean for what now, 6, 7 years? Maybe it was in 2014. Okay, so for at least 4 or 5 years. We know that there's, we might actually see Godzilla erupt out of the water. I'm only joking. We know that animals' behavior is completely weird. My cats are wandering around and won't leave me alone, and they want to be in my lap at all times. And that's, of course, from the earthquakes. So we know that there's many things going on, and we know that the temperature change in Russia has now melted a whole bunch of permafrost that has never melted before, and that is making puddles everywhere, and so they're having billions and billions and billions of mosquitoes because Russia has some big ones, and their tundra up there, I imagine those poor caribou up there in the Russian tundra are probably just sick with bites nonstop, which is also adding to the die-off of the caribou in the Arctic and in Canada, and the bear activity and the deer population, even here in Montana, was affected by chiggers and midges. And the CDC, or the animal people, said that these midges were causing this last deer kill-off that we had a year or two ago up here. And of course, the forest fires aren't helping either. And of course, we're seeing forest fires everywhere, burning on everything, which shows you that the forest is dying, and where climate change is already long involved. And for anyone to argue that we're not having a climate change, all they have to do is go outside at January and take their shirt off and watch themselves get sunburnt when it's 20 degrees. You
Yeah.
know that we're getting fried. Nobody can stand out in the sun anymore. Even in the shade, it's there. We know that the sun has changed. And what people in 2012, when the second sun got here, everybody thought that it was this little tiny thing coming in from the southeast, and it was the opposite. It was this big, massive, huge thing that was in the northeast, and everybody wondered why all of a sudden our sun's coming up in the northeast for the last 7 years. Well, that's because the standard red sun is the one that took over, and it's so bright we don't even see our tiny little small yellow dwarf soul. And they're still linked. And now with these pictures of this week, I'm still up in the air if the suns have separated or not. So, and that could have accounted for some of that flash, boom, bang we had with the CMEs last week. But I'll have to see over the next couple of weeks if we get more, if it's a SATM or if it's the secondary splitting or the separation and the bypassing of each other's suns. Because when we know that when the two suns joined in 2012, and for you tech people who want to really go up and look this up, go to YouTube and look up the back below CMEs of 2012. And that was when the second sun and our small yellow dwarf soul met and discharged between each other and then linked up. And that's why everybody believes that the sun is at a solar minimum and acting weird and behaving funky, because I believe that the standard red is actually pulling a good portion of the soul's output backwards to it. And that shows in some of these NASA footage, etc. And people need to look at the dark sides in this footage. They're always looking at what the flares are, but they don't even see the big, huge half semicircles next to and behind the sun. And then they said, what do you mean a second sun? Well, it's been there since 2012. We watched it come in. We watched it come in from the deep left as Nibiru made its first pass with its tool star. Now, Nibiru has a tiny facial blue star that they placed there. Now, those people on that planet placed them there. And it's not the sun simulator, as WSO or whoever invented that bunch of, anyway. I'm not going to digress and call them names, but
Jeff P. was the one who
yeah,
started
well,
talking
I'm
about
trying
the
not
sun
to insult
simulator.
anybody. I'm trying not to insult these guys, but I mean, it just, they make so much work for me. It's ridiculous because we've been doing this long enough. We know the difference, and all that they're doing is saying, well, it's a sun simulator, because they don't understand the lighting. They don't understand there's a big, huge planet right there that's turning the whole left side of the sky milky because most of the sunlight is gone. And yet you're seeing it on the right-hand side, but you don't understand what you're staring, so you're going, oh, it's a man-made conspiracy. Yoo-hoo. The government's doing it to us. And then they're lost from that moment on. They don't look anything past anything. And they're still to this day having troubles. And I saw a question on a WSO video the other day, which I don't normally watch anymore, going, is there some electrical connection between the passing planets and Earth? And I just laughed and laughed and laughed because I told them that 8 years ago. And they don't listen. So they're more caught up in getting, money and selling T-shirts and coffee cups than the actual facts. And this is why I keep trying to come on and tell everybody, guys, get on board with the, this is citizen science. We have proven it. I don't know what the hell you're looking for way out there anymore on Google space, because the planets, get a rock, man, throw it. You'll hit a planet. They're that big. They're that close. They're here now. And I mean, my God, this started in 2010, 2012. Where you been? If you're in 2018 and you're still thinking Nibiru, the red planet, is on the way from out there, then whoa, you need to get some new, go to the new library, not the old one, because wow. And and then we talked about on the other show, I was like doing this major rant, going, oh my God, do you guys see this cube that's been flying over the top of us for months? And these people are searching for the truth of, is there extraterrestrial life? Well, God, they're driving it right there. They're over the top of your heads every day. There's no such thing as square clouds with three-dimensional corners. And if you see that up in the sky, that is that ship. And it's a support ship for the smaller, big, massive triangles and spheres and smaller ones. And we know it's a support ship because we've got, over the years, we've had so many pictures where there's other ships sighted immediately next to it. It's a support ship. It's a hotel troop ship. They gas and clean the windshield wipers and check the taillights on the other ships. And we know that they're here. And you need to know that we don't own Earth. They do. There won't be an invasion. It's already happened. And then the invasion you need to worry about is the other countries sneaking into ours for other, not, shall we say, nefarious reasons, not very nice people, but that too is just playing catch up, because they don't have a chance in hell at beating the tech level of the ET race above us. There's not a chance in hell. They're only playing catch up. Don't give them the power of being in charge. The government is not in charge. And they've got a clown, oops, I went there, political, with a marionette on the little stage with the strings, and he's dancing in this clown outfit in front of you to keep you from watching the weather. And that's as far as political as I'll go, because it's all staged. It's all set up. Distraction.
You have one more question in the chat.
Okay. What are they charging like capacitors? We're electric. Each of us are giant batteries standing on the Earth. Even the Earth is a battery. Even the sun is this big thing that's we're part of a compound. We are like a subatomic compound, a chemistry equation in space. We're not just solar systems. We are an actual compound that is linked vastly across different universes to make something even bigger that man hasn't even pondered yet. And I have pondered it, but I didn't want to go into too much detail. And, because I have the mind of a physicist and a theoretical, I reach out there, but I like to keep it simple. Let's see. We see the giant halo around the sun. Is that Hercules? Now, that depends. You can see a cutoff halo. If you've got a body that clips in front from above or below or beside, then it can create a halo. But when you see a complete halo with a darkened object of a reddish or striped nature behind, then you're seeing Hercules. In a lot of cases, what you're seeing is a crescent flare halo from a cutoff flare. And it'll appear like the sun is entire, but if you really look at one side or the other, you'll see this little variation on the side of the round sun where the edge is straight. And when you see that straight line, you'll know that's where the planet is being cut into, and you're seeing a cutoff flare halo. Ah, boy. Trying to have another sip of water, I think. Anything else?
Duly noted. Duly noted.
Caught you off guard, did I? I got a minor echo going on. Okay, two suns are charging up like capacitors. Yeah, well, when they separate, there's going to be a Zorch, and or a repulsion force, or a static snap, or God only knows. But and then people are going to worry, well, like, is the sun going to die? No, our sun is going to be just fine. It has run for 4.8 billion years or more, somewhere around there, and it's got a long life yet. But suns can connect into each other. They transition. They do all kinds of things before they snuff out. And if the sun was to snuff out, we would have approximately 25 minutes to worry about it, and then this wave of matter or whatever would blast us into oblivion. So we'd have enough time to have a cup of coffee and watch the sunset, and that'd be about it. So no worries on the sun. And the standard red, when it passes, well, God only knows if we're going to, have a 200-degree surface temperature. Now just look at the underground diggings in Turkey, which was Cappadocia and stuff like that way back when. And there were entire populaces that lived underground, including their animals and everything else. And they lived underground for a great deal of time because there's hundreds and hundreds of miles of underground cities in Turkey, all the way to, Czechoslovakia, and you name it. There's stuff underground you wouldn't believe. So, and, if you look at the Scottish tombs and stuff, even in Scotland and all of this, these people were living underground. So it's entirely possible yet that when the standard red exits with the solar system, and it's 7 or 8 planets total, Hercules included as one. When the standard red leaves us, we don't know what the temperature is going to be on Earth. Now, Hercules is not that hot. It's a gas giant. It's an unlit star, but it is so big that it fills the entire half of the solar system, which is why I believe currently that all the other planets are on the one side of the solar system. They've said it's happened before, but I don't know about that. But then I haven't been around for 10,000 years to judge it personally. So anyway, because, some information could be right, some information could be wrong. And we've got to go by what we know. And I've seen examples.
Okay.
Okay. When the second sun separates, will it stop the Earth from rotating and tip the Earth? Now, that could be when they let us go. I'm sure that there is some sort of magnet, because we are thread attached. Every time these things pass by, we get a zap from each other, and so we know each other. They know us. We're kind of attached. They spin one way, we spin the other. Our orbit is one way. Their orbit has a completely different axis than ours does, which has been confounding for the first few years, and I just couldn't figure out for the life of me why they were so close to each other, and I still don't have that full answer. But that's where the one time where I thought, that we could, if we were released, that we could experience some sort of a rollover or a very large quake, which is exactly what happened in 2004 with the tsunami that killed 250,000 people. That was when the first electrical grab of the other solar system grabbed us, and it split a tectonic plate in the Indian Ocean. That was a big, big quake, and it was a 9-something. And of course, the tsunami one in what the year Fukushima went off, that was a 9-point-something quake, and that was when they got closer. And so I truly believe that we're going to have some sort of effect when they leave. Now, we don't know, like I said before, they could be here for 25 years, they could be here for 1,000 years. We don't know the leaving. We know when they get here, we know that the cycle is 3,654 to 57 years. But we don't know the exit. Now, that information may be in some of the cuneiform tablets, and I have not been able to translate them to Greek to English to read them personally. So in a lot of cases, I have to study what people think that they say. And I'm looking that up still. I'm still looking for that information. And the best way to do it is to go back through history and look what happened this cycle or the cycle before. Now, Chinese history goes back the farthest. They've got the most texts available. Now, if you could read Chinese, I bet you'd probably be able to look up more information than I personally can. And I'd love to hear it if somebody finds out that information.
Well, you know, everybody thought that we were coming back next week. I just got an email from the other recording that we did. There were 34 people in the window, and I wasn't seeing 34. So
Yeah,
somebody,
I saw a whole bunch of that, and there was, and they were in the window, but they weren't on for any time. They
yeah,
had 0.0 seconds, and there was 4 or 5. If you look at the features of the dial-in, there it shows who, and the phone numbers pretexts except the last 4 numbers. Now you may be able to find your hacker out of that if you know who's who.
I know most of my regulars, yeah, and there were some that weren't regulars. I don't know.
There was one guy
You
called
know,
guest. It was just
yeah,
guest,
you can come in as a guest.
and it
You can
wasn't
come
me.
in as a guest. But what I'm wondering is, you know, because of the pornographic pictures, if I should delete that or if I should save it and try to do something about it. I'm on the fence. I don't know.
I would
I don't
save
want.
it and then maybe use it as, if you speak to your tech person, you know, your tech advisor on this talk shoe, use that as an example to say, here's the evidence I didn't do this. If you were to delete it and they ask you for a copy, well, then they might doubt you. So I'd hang on to the copy for sure. And like
Yeah.
I said, you can use my rant. I hear you guys missed a rare Sam Hoffman rant about, guys, you got to know this ET's here, Jesus, you know. And I mean, you want proof of extraterrestrial life? Well, they're flying over your head every day lately on the right-hand side of the sun, and in most cases directly over your head. Look for that big-ass square cloud, and you can't miss it. And once you see it, you'll go, oh, my God. And then we can talk about the skull. Oh, Jesus. Somebody was asking me about that the other day, and I when I saw the skull go over the top of me, and the Attu and Attu's moon in this spring was above us here in Montana, and it was just the most unbelievable sight I'd ever seen in my entire life. It was like this big, giant planet was on a balloon string right above my town. It was that damn close. I couldn't believe it. It was like a giant blimp. And then rounding out of the shadow comes this skull with this smoking, you know, cold, gaseous smoke coming off its face as the eye sockets break into the light, and then you see the nose and the teeth, and I'm just sitting there like, and I almost peed my pants. And I've been at this for a long time, and I've met ET personally, and I've walked the earth, and I know magic, and I know spirits, and I see them regularly, and I don't pee my pants over this stuff. And this almost made me pee my pants. I couldn't believe it. And if you guys get the opportunity to see the skull, you will be on your hands and knees going, oh, my God, there's more to this. Because there is. There's a lot more to this than just science and math and chemistry, you know, and because we know that there's spiritual parts about this. And most people who are not ready to hear this are probably turning the channel off right now. But there is a spiritual effort side to this, and it's not got anything to do with Jesus and God. There's more. There's bigger spaces between God and Jesus and what's going on here. And I was talking to I mentioned Andy Pohl the other on the other show, and I got to give him a shout out. He's doing great work over in England, and he gives me some of the best sightings. And I've been talking, and I don't want to scare people and talk about the spirits, but there is a spirituality attested to wormwood, and the object cluster group, in my opinion, and the skull are related to that. And we know that the cube is Quetzalcoatl because Quetzalcoatl has been here before. It's been in the records of the Mayans and the Incans, and it fits the cube and the facial markings of the great phoenix and all of this. And these are time markers. They're laid out in star charts, but yet they're drawn in animal spirits. And once you cross-reference the crop circles and all of this stuff together, it makes sense. It fits. And if it fits, it's the truth. If it's complicated, it's a lie. And we've proven this over time. And we know what's up here and right here. And my God, ET is here. And all you have to do is go outside and look for that damn cube every day. And it's up there. Once you see it, you hook, line, and sinker, because that's a craft. We don't have square clouds, and I can't stress that enough. And And on the site, people going, what's the cube? And it's like, my God, I've been talking about it for 2 years straight. Where have you been? And people, they read what they want to read and then they quit. So if you really want to be informed, you got to follow the information. You've got to stay on top of this because a lot of this has been hidden. And don't follow these guys that want $5 out of you. Although it'd be nice if somebody sends it to me once in a while because I'm 13 computers, 13 computers down and years of internet fees and et cetera, cameras, this, that, and the other stuff. But, and I, P.O. Box 625, mail me $10, mail me. I did get a nice lady, and I sent her a thank you card that mailed me a $20 donation from your show. And I thank you very much. And you know who you are out there. And I would love some more because I'm a single dad, and we live on food stamps. I'm not too brave to admit it. But in these trying times, I don't know anybody that's doing well unless you're really rich and stepping on people. Anyway, I heard another clicker. You're still there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm still there.
This information has been gathered, and I'm not a crackpot that's going to fly off the handle and say, oh, my God, look at that after one picture. This is all documented, and we wait, and I discuss it with members and people I trust, and I even have a religious counselor that I speak to, and her name is Lana Davis, and she's a wonderful lady, and we owe her a lot of thanks just for keeping me sane and keeping me online because I wanted to give up many times, and she kept patting me on the back and boosting me. So, and she's my major admin on Montana Skywatcher 1, but most people can't get to that, so if they want to talk to me on Facebook 2, on Facebook, I'm on Montana Skywatcher 2, and we just about let everybody in there unless they're really weird, and they have to have a face on their picture. They have to be
Wait
a
a
real
minute.
person.
You let me in there, and I'm really weird.
Well, no, you're not really weird. You're just normal weird.
Okay.
You're
All right.
normal
Well,
weird.
I'm going crazy. I'm going to Crazy Town. You want to go with me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Riding the crazy train. and that's our
now,
dear friend.
Did you know that they heard the trumpet sounds over? I think it was in Alabama.
Oh yeah.
So
That's been going on for years.
What's up with that? What's up with that?
That, I believe, is the atmospheric rub between the two planets and/or tectonic plate grind, where it's like the finger on a glass. It's like the finger on a crystal glass when you wet it and rub slowly. It goes whoa, 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 and I think that's either the atmospheres of the planets rubbing together slowly, or the slow grind movement. Now we know it's been coming from the skies, but it started. If you go to YouTube and look it up, it started in late 2011, 2012, and we had an event here in Missoula as well. Actually, we had 3 events, and I was standing outside listening to it, and it was going whoa, 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 and whoa, for hours here up here in Montana, and that was during the winter. So when it gets cold up here, maybe those tectonic plates are rubbing together and making that. And if you go onto YouTube, there's thousands of those trumpeting sound videos.
Yeah.
And so this isn't a fluke. This is real. And of course.
And you know what I notice when people record it with their phone, and they're outside, if they've got a dog or an animal, those animals are going crazy.
Oh yeah, and everybody's asking about the ringing in our ears and the nausea and the irritability. Now we're being twice, if not 3 times, lunatic, because lunacy comes from Luna, the moon. We're being affected by Atu's moon as well, and I'm suffering from it. But I keep telling myself, well, this is Atu's moon, and so I've got a handle on it, kind of like trying to keep my brain together. And there's a question up here: is the sun thing gonna affect our wipe out our mind? And yeah, there's the possibility of some sort of a Tower of Babel event, and we could be currently going through that as well right now in certain ways, because look at how everybody's acting like they're a grumpy, irritable idiot. I mean, everyone from big cities on, the murder rate's gone crazy, and people are jumpy, and, well, you said boo to me, bang, I'm going to shoot you, which is stupid. You don't get, and cops are killing people over for a taillight. I mean, come on. When you feel gruff and bad, don't go anywhere. Stay home. There's lunacy everywhere.
on the news yesterday, there was a birthday party in the park, and there was a guy that was doing drugs. So the grandfather walked over there and asked him to please not do drugs in front of the kids and leave. And the guy pulled a knife out and stabbed him to death in front of all them children.
Right. Because he's
I mean,
not
that's
running
just
on.
crazy.
Well, he's not running on a normal brain anyway. He's been killing it with all these bad drugs that they're helping to come into the country and make in some cases. Because I hate to say they, because I know that there's an agenda for us, as many of us stupid people, to wipe ourselves out of the gene pool as possible. And I'll be so thankful when that good old boy populace has actually died off and taken their really archaic ways along with them.
Yeah.
And those of us from the 70s hippie movement, which I was 9 years old when Woodstock was going on, and I tried to run away to go there, and it was only a few hundred miles away, but common sense stopped me, and so did my sisters. But anyway, I was headed there, but never got there. And those of us who grew up through the Woodstock era are a whole different group of sheep, or whatever. That's a bad word. Let's just say a whole group of different fish. And hopefully we're going to have a little more kindness in our hearts instead of greed and subduing power, want, and all of this, because these good old boys are just grinding us into hell, and I can't wait till they're done in Washington. I can't wait until the smart people get elected instead of these crazy old bastards. Oops, excuse me, I went political again. Anyway. Excuse me.
Oh.
I know for a fact that I'm very smart because I've had the government tell me, and I've had 10,000 members tell me this on a regular basis, and I apologize for using that statement, but it's the truth. So if I can see this, I don't understand why everybody else doesn't see it. Come on, this is crazy. I mean, corporations are running everything. Our food is poisoned. Our water is poisoned. Our air is poisoned. Our forests are burning. Our animals are dying. Our oceans are dying. When is enough enough? When is everybody going to say, wait a minute, well, this is wrong. Let's start over.
And I watched a documentary on that Fukushima, and what they're doing is they're cooling those reactors, and the water is radioactive, and they're putting it in tanks that are cement, and then they're filtering it, but they're only getting 90% of the cesium out of it. So they're
dumping the rest in the ocean.
10% in the ocean. Plus,
well, have you looked up?
Here's another factor. If they have, this is the bad part, if they have another earthquake over there, those tanks are not earthquake proof.
No, and they'll splat in the water all over and soak into the ground, and nobody will live there for the next 30,000 years. Because that's cesium. That has a half-life of 32,000 years. You should see what's going on at Hanford. That's the plutonium factory, which has a half-life of 750,000 years, and that's plutonium. And that area manufactured all the plutonium for the bombs, and they have buried all of the slag tailings underground and hidden them, and they're leaking, and that's why those holes opened up, and those workers got sick, and it's draining into the Columbia River, which is going out into the Pacific Ocean via past Seattle. And they've got students out there measuring the radioactivity on a daily basis from all the colleges around, because they're using them as fodder rather than the actual people who work there, because they don't want to go and do it, because they know better. That whole area, once you start a nuclear reaction process, you can never turn it off. What idiot thought of that? You can never turn that off. You can never use that land except for what that is, and for the next foreseeable 500,000 years. Excuse me, something wrong here. This powered, and then they make these excuses saying, well, maybe someday we'll have the technology to deal with what we've created. Well, maybe
they need to turn them all off. They need to turn them all off. I know.
What do they do with it once they do that? Now, there are a couple of really cool physicists, and I've been watching some information in the background. There's this one gal in particular, and I wish I could name her, but her name escapes me because she deserves the recognition. She's planning on using old tailings to make a power reactor that actually uses up the radiation. So that will be a good thing.
That would be great,
I hope she's funded, and I hope her studies go well for her, because, boy, we need that really, really fast. And then there's always the hope and the prayer that ET will come down and go, okay, Fukushima, you need to go into space. So let's take this portion of the island and just make it vanish. Because we needed that 5 years ago. ET, where are you? And sometimes I feel like maybe the Pleiadians listen to my message because they looked me up in the past, and that might be the stuff we're talking about today that they looked up 25 years ago because they're from the future. So therefore, they would have a copy of this show. Hi, Pleiadians. How you doing? Anyway. Because they told me what they told me, and it's coming true, and everything they told me has come true with minor exceptions because that's how I interpreted it, you know. Oh, I got so much information. I finally told the guy, I said, stop, I can't take anymore. And I wish I had listened. I mean, I doubted him because he was standing there telling me how smart I was, and I was going, oh, come on, I'm just, you know, your normal average Joe. And they were going, no, you're going to do something great, and you're going to change things because other people won't see what you know. And it's like, and here we are, 25 years later, and it's exactly that way.
Well, they
because
come talk to me.
Yeah, oh, be careful what you wish
they
for.
They come talk to me. Hey, I'm not wishing. I'm just opening the door.
The realization that we've been lied to is very heavy. It hurts. And when you get that information, it took me 25 years to chew this and swallow it, because the information that they gave me is mind-boggling, and it argues with my religious nature. And oh boy, did those two have an argument. The scientist in me and the religious person, because I studied very much. At one point in time, I even thought about becoming a priest because I loved the study of the history and the religion so much, and because I wanted to find the truth in magic. And that's why I studied religion as much as I did. But anyway, and I did find it. I have found bodhisattva and enlightenment, and I have done magic, and I've had people around me to see it, that it does happen. And I've proven to many, many people over the years that I can far see, because I tell them little tidbits about what they're doing when I'm talking to them online, and they're in awe and amazement. And I scare some people, and I try not to do that, so I don't do it very often. But I am a very good farseer, and like I said before, I'll give you my record versus anybody that wants to sit and discuss it, because I have been that accurate in the last 8 years, and I'm completely proud of that. This is my thing. This is what I do, and I'm happy with that, and I'm content.
Samuel, we're coming up on the end of the show here, so before we get off of here, we spent like 45 minutes screwing around with the first one.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, live and learn.
Well,
Just too sheltered.
But we'll have you back. We will have you back.
No worries. No worries. You know
not
me.
to worry at all. And you know when I said we'll do it next week, we can't do it next week. I got Betsy Lewis coming on. So,
no problem. No problem.
Let me take a look at this calendar here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and do your calendar when you want to, and then let me know, and then I'll let my people know, and then we'll wing it, because I'm not doing anything other than raising my two beautiful, wonderful daughters. And Friday night we don't have any major shows. Saturday night is Svengoolie night.
Well, I'm on the fence right now because I have Betsy next week. I don't want to do a back-to-back show because I'm still not feeling that great. So why don't we put you in there on the 28th? We'll have you come back on the 28th.
And then we'll have some new stuff by the 28th for sure. And everybody needs to go out and start, spend a little. I mean, you're not going to see it the first 5 minutes you're out. Sometimes it takes an hour to sit out. And if you go out in different parts of the day and have a look around, and they're the big, dark, shadowing things, and you can't miss these dark shadows. And the problem is, and people need to know this, at sea level, it's harder for you to see them at sea level than it is up here in the mountains with me. And that's part of why I see them as easily. And once you learn, and go back and watch some of my older videos on YouTube, Understanding the Skies Edition 1 by Samuel Hoffman, and that'll show you the base clouds. And once you learn the base clouds, you'll start to see them come in. And before you know it, you will be a believer. I know you need to go.
And we got some people here that want you back ASAP. So this is what I'm going to do, you guys. Depending on my health, if I can handle it, if I can't handle it, he'll be on the 28th. If I'm feeling a little bit better, we'll bring him in on the 21st. So we'll just leave it up in the air at that right now. But I will try to have you back, It's
And like
just,
I say,
you
if
know,
people personally want to, talk to me on Facebook if they can't wait, or on Montana Skywatcher too, and I can't get to everybody because I get so many messages I can't get through them all anymore. I used to be able to, but I can't. I mean, I get hundreds, and so if you just try to contact me on private message or whatever, join the site, whatever, or send me a friend request on Samuel Hoffman, HOFMAN. And there's a couple of us on YouTube with my same name, but you can tell the difference.
why
And
don't you
I do
give out
talk to people.
your PO box again too,
Yeah, and if you need to
just in
send
case
me
someone
something,
wants to throw you a couple bucks.
yeah, okay, PO Box 625, Lolo, Montana, Lolo, Lolo, Montana, MON. Yeah, and you can spell Montana 59847. And yes,
Great,
absolutely.
Sam.
You can send me a personal check. You can send me a $10 bill inside of a card, whatever. Please no food or consumable products because I don't eat anything I get through the mail. And I'd love to hear from you. And if you got a package of something you want to show me but you're afraid to, I won't divulge your name and I won't sell anybody's information that they send to me. It's all private, and I don't have any plans on selling the pictures from our sites until I was to put maybe one overall book together, and that is not for proceeds for me. That would be proceeds for other people later. Because I'm not into this for the money, I'm into it for the information so that you guys can find out what they don't want you to know and why they spent 30 years taping my mouth shut. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I just, want to thank you, Sam, for coming out here, and I apologize for all what we went through with the first show.
I have no problem with it at all. I'm not judging you or the system by this. This just happens to me all the time. I'm being stopped at every time I turn around.
Well, that's the first time I ever had pornographic pictures put up on the screen, and it's that upsets me. But
They
what are you going to do? It is what it is.
Wow music. Wow,
no, it was
wow,
just
wow.
pictures. Just pictures, and then I was called a few choice names too. But you know what?
I didn't see any of that, so I missed out. Oh well.
Oh well, it ain't missing
well, I've been
much.
a monk for I've been a single monk for going on 9 years now, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, we appreciate you coming out. I will have Betsy Lewis on next week, everybody. So watch for that. I thought, and this is another thing that I could have swore that I had opened up a window and put this show up, and right before the show, Jeff comes and tells me it's not showing any show. So obviously whoever hacked me took it down. So, I'll have to keep tabs on that to make sure you guys see that I do have a show posted up. I'll try to keep
and I'm looking
check
at
on it.
I'm seeing the vocal screen here now, and it's saying live. And the last time when you cut the show, it said the show had been cut. So I will be better at this in the future as well.
Okay, well, yeah, and and the thing is, once I can figure out how to work the video and that, maybe we can get you to put some pictures up,
Right. I'll see how long they let me stay signed up for. We'll give it a shot.
All right. Okay, Sam. Well, thanks so much.
I'll try to listen to your next week's show and see if I can log in, and we'll work from there.
Okay. Okay, that'd be great. All right. You have a
care.
great night. And
take care, everybody out there.
Yeah, thank you for spending your time with us. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Sorry about all the confusion. Hopefully next week will go smoother. I am going to contact TalkShoe and report being hacked and find out what the heck's going on with that. And I did change my password, so we'll see what happens. Maybe we can start running smooth again. I'm glad you all joined us.
Make sure you wrote it down.
Yeah.
Make sure you write it down.
Yes. Yep, that's it. And
all right, I'm going to hang up now. So good night, everybody.
We'll do the best we can. Thanks, Sam.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we're doing what we can here, you guys. That's all I can say. I'm doing the best I can. So I'm going to sign off for tonight. And remember, Bad Baby loves you. And we will see you next week. Good night.